Network Entertainment.
Your hiya is never gonna take you anywhere. Um, you just have to put yourself out there, because it's gonna be such a rewarding experience. And even if you get like rejected, you're you're always going to enjoy the journey more if you take those chances. It's such a freeing experience to not care about what people think of you. And I always say, like, it's a them problem. It's not a you
It's a
problem.
them problem.
Yeah.
Right.
If they're like annoyed, or like they're like, "Oh, you're so cringe." They're living with that annoyance in their brain. You're not. You're just living your best life.
Hi, this is Mirza Season. Welcome to You Can Do This, a podcast that'll help you achieve your dreams and goals one episode at a time. What are you waiting for? Let's go! If you're not a hardcore theater fan, you might think that our guest today is an overnight success. But the truth is, her journey took 20 years. She's actually 50 years. I'm just kidding. She didn't get her first lead role until last year, and it was only in January of this year when she made national headlines for being selected to step into the role of Gigi Van Tran in the Manila run and in the international tour of Miss Saigon, which ended just a few weeks ago. She started theater training at the age of 5 with Repertory Philippines, where she made her first professional debut at the age of 14 in Disney's Camp Rock. Before Miss Saigon, she bagged her first lead role in Snow White and the Prince, for which she was nominated as Best Performer in a Musical in the Broadway World Philippines Awards. Please welcome Kiara Dario. Hi!
Grabe yung national headlines. Wow.
Yes! Quite a few. So how's life unfolding for you these days?
It's been surreal. Like, every day I wake up and I'm like, is this really my life?
Oh my
When am I gonna wake
gosh.
up from this dream?
Right. I saw your post with all the screaming fans
Oh, yeah.
on the last day, and you're crying.
I was
and
crying.
people were chanting your name. What was that like?
That was insane. Because, I mean, I've been a stage doorer myself. So for those who don't know, stage dooring is like when you meet the cast of a
Right,
musical outside, like the entrance of
Right,
the
right.
stage. And like, I've always been the fan.
Yeah.
So to experience that, it's on the other side. It's like, what? How is this happening to me?
Right. And your life changed dramatically in the last 6 months.
Yeah,
Tell us
exactly.
about how that all unfolded.
Well, I already felt like my theater career was just taking off. 'Cause,
Right.
like, as you said, last year I got my first lead role. And that was already like a big shock to me. And then as I was doing the run for Snow White, I got a call to ask if I wanted to audition, send in a video for Gigi for the international tour of Miss Saigon. And I was like, I don't think I'm bagay,
Right.
but I'll just do it anyway,
Right.
because it's one of my favorite musicals ever. And then I sent one. 2 weeks later, they asked me to fly to Melbourne for an in-person audition. And I was surprised to find that I was the only one there. I really thought it would be like
Right.
a lot of other girls.
Right.
No, it was just me.
So ikaw na.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And then we had an audition. And then 2 weeks later, they called me and offered me the role.
Oh my goodness.
And even then, I kept asking, like, are you sure? Like, I'm not understudy. I'm not a cover.
Right.
I'm not an alternate. Like, you're giving me the role. And they're like,
Right.
yeah.
Right. But let's rewind further to 2016 when you did try for Miss Saigon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so in 2016, Miss Saigon had an open call in Manila in Philippine Opera House. And there were like hundreds and hundreds of auditionees because it was an open call. So I was just one out of, like, I think there were 2 days of auditions. Or 2 days of the first round, just the first round. So I waited hours and hours in line. And I auditioned for Kim at the time.
You were 18.
I was 18.
And
yeah.
you were in college
I was
or
in
high
college.
school? Okay.
I was taking psychology.
Right.
And I remember that being the first time I auditioned for anything in a long time, because at that time I was focusing on college. I was like, I'm gonna be a model student. I wanted to be a doctor. And then Miss Saigon came in, and I was like, I have to do it because it's one of my favorite musicals.
Right. That you were singing since the age of 3,
Yeah.
apparently. How did they explain the lyrics to you?
I didn't even actually. I never really understood fully the
Right,
musical until
right,
I started doing it. I was like, oh, okay, that's what this means.
Oh, okay. All right.
But yeah, I went in to audition, and I was so excited. And I remember saying like, I will drop everything if I get this. I'll drop my school. I'll drop my doctor dreams if I get this.
Did you think you had a good chance? Like, did you get feedback, let's say, from theater people saying, you have to try, magaling ka, or anything like that?
I always like got good feedback from people that I was working with, but I mean, I knew I was just also one among many, many, many girls
Right,
who
right.
are talented as well. And that honestly didn't stop me because I said, I'm probably the one who wants this the most.
Wow. Okay.
So when I auditioned, I sang for like 5 seconds and they were like, okay, thank you.
5 seconds
Yeah!
lang. Oh my gosh.
After waiting 5 hours in line.
Oh my gosh. And then, how did you feel? What went through your mind?
I honestly, I didn't feel any ounce of rejection. Like I got rejected technically, but I just felt fueled. And I realized that I have to keep doing this. I have to go back into theater. Because at that time I was taking a hiatus for like 2 years.
Right.
And I was like, if it makes me this happy to sing for 5 seconds, why am I not doing this all the time?
Right. Right.
So that's when I started getting back into theater, doing more auditions, and still getting rejected, but really like committing to that passion.
Wow. Most people would have probably been so demoralized
Yeah,
and
devastated.
given it up altogether, but no.
Yeah, I think it's also because as you said, like I've been doing theater since I was 5. So that's when I also started auditioning. And I didn't get accepted until I was 14. So it was like 9 years of just auditioning and
Oh my
getting
gosh.
rejections
Wow.
every time. So I was
And your parents never said, tigilan na yan, ha?
it was funny because I was also doing auditions with my sister.
Okay.
That's how I got into theater, because my sister did Annie and Oliver with Rep when she was like 5. And like after that we were doing auditions together, Sound of Music, stuff like that. And we would both get rejected and my sister would cry. And then for me it was more like I'm just happy to have an audience to sing.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't even know I was like good at singing. I just wanted to
Right.
sing.
Right. And looking back, what do you think happened? Why were you getting rejected so many times?
It's more of like timing. A lot of times where I would be in the last round and then they wouldn't pick me in the end. And it was really just more of like, there's so many factors in auditions. I think that's what people forget. Like,
Yes.
it doesn't mean that you're a bad actor or you're
Right.
not talented. It's usually like, oh, your height.
You're not
versus
what they're looking for.
Yeah, like your height versus your co-actors it's not
Right.
pantay.
Right.
Or like, for me it was also like they want someone who's homeschooled.
Oh,
And I
okay.
didn't want to be homeschooled.
Right,
My
right,
parents
right.
also didn't want me to
But
be
they never
homeschooled.
told you those reasons.
No, they never really say the reasons. I auditioned also for like the Lion King International Tour and Baby Nala.
Oh, right, right, right.
And like, I got a peek at my audition slip and it said, too tall.
Ah.
So things like that.
Right, right, right. But what kept you going? Because I was a model once and we were rejected daily.
Yes,
And we
exactly.
learned not to take it personally
Yeah.
because, maybe you're not what they're looking for. It doesn't mean you're ugly or
Yeah.
bad.
Exactly. I think it was, I mean, of course it hurts. Because I feel like I'm speaking like it never fazed me. It does. It like has an effect on like how you see yourself. But I think it was my desire to perform was much bigger than my fear of rejection.
Wow. Tell us more about that. Your desire to perform was much bigger than your fear of rejection.
I don't know, like I just really love to sing
Right.
and to dance and to. I've been a fan of theater since I was a kid because my parents
We're theater
be
fans.
theater fans.
Right,
They're
right.
always like bringing me to Repertory Philippines shows, and I every time like watch them, I'm like, I want to do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Early on, you knew.
Yeah.
Your mom said you have been singing every single day from age 3.
Yeah.
And one of the first lyrics you learned was, "I'm not that innocent" by Britney
Oh my God.
Spears.
Yeah, exactly. They really couldn't stop me from singing. As in, sometimes they'd be like, Kiara, tama na. Tama na.
And then they said you loved performing for people and you were a comedian and you'd mimic Christina Aguilera, Beyonce, Bernadette Peters, and even Louis Armstrong.
Oh my God. Wow. You got all the information.
She also said kids passing by our house would ask if we were giving singing lessons because they could hear you sing all the time.
Yeah. I just sing all the time in the house. Even until now.
Right.
It's just so noisy. I'm so sorry to my neighbors.
Right. So what is your advice for people who can't cope with rejection? And parang these days, people feel rejected when they don't get a like
Yeah.
on a post.
Oh yeah.
Diba? Parang something that seemingly superficial is enough to demoralize them. What can you say about that?
Oh yeah. That's so interesting because social media can be such a like a environment full of rejection, right?
Right.
I read a post recently that said that you shouldn't feel like rejection is defeat because it's actually a victory because you put yourself out there even in the risk at the risk of rejection. So for example, you go for a job or an audition or like even just a post
Right.
that already shows that you've already made a victory in putting yourself out there. So you should be proud that
Right.
you put yourself out there, whether
Right.
or not you get accepted or rejected.
I remember actually the first time you came into my consciousness was Vaccine Tita
Oh my
on
God!
TikTok.
Oh my God!
Those were so entertaining and you kuha mo talaga the tita mannerisms
Mannerisms.
and gestures or
Yeah.
even when she said, "I don't know how to do that computer."
Yeah, computer thing.
Sobrang panalo. Tell us about that during the pandemic and what drove you to do those skits, and did you ever fear like people would not respond positively or yeah.
It was the same thing. I think more like since there was no theater, the pandemic closed all of the events, live theater. It was like I needed a creative
You
outlet.
needed an outlet.
Right? And it was like as my mom said, like I love to make people laugh. So I just started posting that. Never did I think that people would actually like that it would go viral.
Yeah.
I was just doing it for
For your own
yeah,
entertainment.
for my own entertainment because I was so bored at home. And then when it comes to like, did I think that people would respond negatively? It's so funny because like TikTok is such a cesspool of like,
Cesspool.
of weird comments. Like I
What
get
was the weirdest?
comments like, "Why do you flare your nostrils?"
Oh,
Or like, "Why are your lips so dry? You should use lip balm."
no way.
Stuff like that. That's why like the internet is so full of people that will just like want to tear you down and stuff. And people always ask me like, how do I deal with that? Because especially in the Philippines, we're just so noisy online. And I also had to talk to my castmates in Miss Saigon about this because most of them are Australian and are not used to that kind of interaction online where people have zero boundaries and will just say anything.
Wow, tayo lang ba yan?
Yeah. Yes. The Philippines
my
is
gosh.
so like we have no boundaries online.
Oh my goodness.
We're the best fans, but we're also the worst haters.
Oh my gosh.
So like I really had to tell them like you really have to pick what noise you listen to, because these are not also people that you would take advice
Would
from.
they get bad comments?
Yeah,
Oh.
all the time.
Oh my gosh.
Like
I'm shocked.
how come you're not saying hi to me at stage door? Yeah, or like I don't know why you got cast. Maybe you should be fired. Stuff like that. Like
Oh my goodness.
really the worst things. But I think
Right.
like being subjected to Philippine theater from a young age has made me so like immune to any kind of hate. But I know for other people it takes a while, because it also took me a while to get used to that. But yeah, it's just about like you really have to pick who you listen to and who you give your energy to, because these people when they're typing it, they're probably on the toilet.
Yeah.
They don't think that you're gonna read it. They don't realize that you're also a person, so you can't give them that
They're
kind of
just brain farting.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
So like they don't deserve that kind of head space. Like don't even give them the time of day.
How did you get so tough self-esteem wise? You said early training in theater. What was that like? Did you get yelled
Oh
at?
yeah. I mean, it's very different now, but when I was doing theater training, I'm sure it's very similar in like ballet or
Yes,
dance,
yes.
where like it was very authoritarian. Like you really had to put yourself in line, and like sometimes you'd get yelled at for like the most random things. And that really taught me not to take it personally, because I know, like I always knew I loved performing. And if like my director will like yell at me, even if it's not my fault, I'm like, I know it's not my fault, so I can't let this affect me. I know that they're just angry, but it's not about me.
Right.
I think that's what like I really had to learn, especially in art. You put so much of yourself in your art, and it feels so personal. But you also have to remember that like what other people say about you has nothing to do with you, and has more to do with themselves.
Right.
And like to take your ego out of it.
Right. And that's something that really hinders people who are artistic
Oh, yeah.
from presenting their art.
Yeah.
And in theater, there's no way but to perform.
Exactly.
Right? But so many people will hide their art
Yeah.
and keep it to themselves. What's your advice for them?
Yeah, it makes me actually really sad, because there's so many talented people that are like, maybe theater's not for me, because they get rejected at an audition a few times. And that makes me so sad, because like imagine if I, in my first 5 auditions, I was like, maybe this isn't for me, I would have never pursued it, and I wouldn't have gotten to where I am today. So like my advice is that you just, it's okay to be scared, it's okay to like feel bad, that's so normal. But it's not the end. It's not the end of your journey, because the criticism that you get can only make you better. You can only
Right.
grow from that experience. So even for me, like when I get notes, I get excited. Like my director will be like, "Kiara, I have notes."
Oh.
Even like
Even during this run?
yeah,
Wow. Like
Maybe, like,
what? If you
twice
can
a week.
share some.
Like Kiara, can you, for example, there's this line where I say, you prick, right before movie in my mind, where John rejects me, and then I push him, and I
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
you,
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
prick. And sometimes that scene is so quick, so sometimes it can feel autopilot.
Uh-huh.
But my director will say like, make sure that it comes from somewhere where it's like bubbling throughout the whole night, where like the stakes are so high, you're depending on him for your ticket out
Right.
of Saigon, and he just shatters all of that. So
Wow.
my art director Teresa Guen always likes to give notes, which I know some actors don't want to be given notes. Like they prefer to discover things on their own. But I really love like that kind of hands-on
Right.
environment where like
Right.
I get to build on everything that I've done before.
Right.
Hi, My name is RJ Ledesma. I wear many hats. I wish I had just as many heads. I'm a serial entrepreneur and I'm also an entrepreneur mentor. I'd like to invite all of you to please listen to the RJ Ledesma podcast. On my podcast, I listen to inspiring business leaders and entrepreneurs to learn more about how they think about doing business, what are their success secrets, and how we can replicate them, and more importantly, what business opportunities do they see emerging in the near future for us entrepreneurs. Listen to the RJ Ledesma podcast.
Tell us more about how you adjusted to playing a role like Gigi when in your mind you were Snow White and
Yeah.
Kim.
Oh my gosh.
And tell us about the outfit.
Oh my gosh. It took actually quite a lot. I remember in my auditions, I was so shy because it was
In Australia.
in Australia, in Melbourne. It was just me and like a panel of 5. The creatives were all there watching me, and the assignment was the pianist would play.
Were you in costume?
No, I was in like rehearsal outfit, but I made it army green. Just
Okay.
so that it had that look of Gigi. And then the pianist was playing Heat Is On, and I just had to dance. And I was like, how am I gonna do this? I'm alone, there's nobody here.
But did you practice the dance at home
They didn't
beforehand?
give me any choreography.
Or did you study like all
Yes,
old like
yeah.
YouTube videos?
Definitely.
Okay.
But like I was still like, oh my god, what am I gonna do?
And then bar
here?
girl dance pa.
Yeah, exactly. It has to be sexy. It has to be, and like I'm the only one there, and it's a panel of mostly men.
Oh.
Like,
So
and-
what happened? What was running through your mind, and how did you summon the sexy courage?
yeah, it's so funny because you'd think that like you'd need to be like tough, and like there's always that feeling of self-consciousness, but I really had to. Well, it took a few rounds. Like they kept asking me to do it again, giving me notes, and I think that was what helped me. Also, the encouragement.
So they'd say, do it sexier or whatever.
Their notes were like, pretend that there's a dozen GIs surrounding you, and you have to get their attention.
Okay.
So, like, I really had to make myself vulnerable. Because in that moment, you think, like, no, I can't, like, I have to be strong. I have to, like, shield myself. But in auditions, the best thing you can do is be vulnerable and not think about if I look ugly, if I look stupid, if I
right.
look... It doesn't matter. Like, that's not you. You're a character.
Right.
Playing a character in that moment. So I really had to, like, take myself out of it and perform. And it's such a freeing experience. And learning how to put myself into the role of Gigi was not easy. I had to do a lot of like self-awareness because
Inner work.
inner work, because she's such a confident person, and like I have social anxiety, so especially like being in a new
Environment.
continent.
Oh, continent talaga.
Yeah,
di ba?
new. It is an international cast. It's such a high stakes like environment, and then my note was always like, Kiara, you have to feel like you own the space more,
Yeah.
and that took a lot of work. So I remember I have a playlist that's like a Gigi playlist, and I would listen to it every time I would walk to rehearsals.
What's the number one song on that playlist?
Uh,
For those who want to.
Circus by Britney Spears.
Okay. Britney pa rin.
Yeah,
Full
Britney
circle.
pa rin. Yeah, exactly, full circle. And then I would walk in a straight line, and I wouldn't make anybody adjust for me, because usually I'm like, you know, us Filipina women.
Yeah. We make a shark
Yeah,
when we
excuse
pass.
me, excuse me. I was like, no more doing that. I'm just gonna walk, and if I bump people, then I bump people. But surprisingly, everyone would adjust. To me.
Right.
Even like walking down a sidewalk, I feel like
The sea would
energy-
part for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, I've never felt this kind of power before.
And where did you make that hugot if you have no life experience? and you're supposed to portray that. Where does that come from?
We did a lot of research. So the first thing we did when we got to rehearsals was watch a documentary on Saigon during the American occupation. And it was like really, really eye-opening. I think that was really important, especially for this run, because they wanted to base a lot of things on authenticity.
Right.
Especially because our directors they really wanted to do a fresh take on Saigon, on
Right.
Saigon. One of our directors, Teresa Nguyen, is a Vietnamese American woman.
Oh,
So that really added
a different dimension
perspective.
and female gaze,
Yes,
maybe.
exactly.
Right. A friend of mine said she refused to watch Miss Saigon with us because she said it's playing to Asian stereotypes. Plus, she doesn't like the American savior complex. So, keeping that in mind, how did you craft your portrayal of Gigi in a way that empowers women still?
Oh, that's such an interesting question. I get that comment a lot, and I don't disregard it. I think it's an important thing to keep in mind, especially for the previous productions of
Yes.
Saigon. Because it was made in 1989. So
Right. And then there was a revamp in what year?
2014.
Right.
But I really want to encourage people to see this version because, as I mentioned before, it really feels like the perspective has shifted in favor of the Asian women. And to me, it comes off as not promoting the American savior complex, but showing really the failure and the how the American dream is a fallacy, and how, like, in a war, nobody wins,
Right.
and how unnecessary that war was for everybody involved, especially for the Asian women. And a lot of scenes like Dreamland, that was they took like a week in
Right.
Sydney restaging everything to make sure that the women didn't look like victims,
Oh,
and
wow.
to make sure that, like, the men could not touch the women unless the women were paid, whereas before,
And show that all on stage.
yeah, and like put women on like the tables, for example,
Right.
where the focus was really like these women are working rather than these women are so kawawa, they're
Right.
they're victims.
Wow. So many nuances
So many,
pala.
and like a lot of lyric changes to make sure that, like, it didn't feel like the American dream was the goal, but it was more like they wanted to live a better life in general, and at that time one of the ways was to go to America. But it's funny because it almost feels like a satire now, especially the song American Dream.
Yeah.
Where I feel like the way Sean, who plays the engineer, does American Dream, it really feels like it's not glorifying the capitalist mindset,
Right.
but it's more like such a juxtaposition from like the what's it called, the decadence, of, like, the
Yes.
American dream, and how that isn't necessarily a
Right.
good thing
Right.
too.
Maybe in the context also of today's perception of America and how
Exactly.
it's no longer really the American
Yeah,
dream.
exactly. That's why I think it's such a beautiful thing that this musical has stood the test of time because it's been revamped so much.
Yes.
Because
It evolved with the times.
yeah, the creatives
Right.
are really, like, making an active decision to be able to, like, with what we've learned about society and history in the past 35 years that the show has been running, how do we make sure that it says something new and authentic and empowering
Right.
for Asian people?
So earlier we were chatting before we started recording. I noticed on opening night when on that scene on top of the car where you were just supposed to be wearing nipple pasties and the fur coat. Parang you were shy pa. You
Yeah.
were like covering it pa. And then as time went on, parang open na,
Yes.
diba? Right. Tell us what happened and like how come you became less shy as time went on.
Yeah. Actually, I was asking our director, like, how much should I show? And then she said, it's up to you. I was like, oh, interesting. So it's nice that we're given that free reign. But as you said, as time went on, I was able to feel more comfortable in that costume. I remember the first time I wore it, I was like, what? How am I going to wear this in front of my family?
And your family was there on
Yes.
opening night, so that was the biggest
Yes.
thing in your head.
My family was there on opening night. I feel like I knew like 90% of the audience on
Yes.
opening night. So I was like, oh my God, my teachers, my mentors in theater are all here. They're gonna see me naked. But you know, as time went on, it was like I really had to slowly unlearn also like a lot of the modesty guilt
Yes.
that we as Filipino women grow up with.
Exactly.
Where it's like, ay, ang hubadera naman. Like, you can't be showing that much.
Right.
And like for me, it was actually such a freeing experience to be able to say like, this, what I do on stage is also not
Who you are.
who I am. And we actually had a lot of sessions, like intimacy sessions,
Oh.
with the cast, especially for the Dreamland scenes.
Yes.
Where like the women are very,
Very
vulnerable.
Yeah, very raunchy scenes.
Yeah. And we did a lot of like what am I comfortable with doing? What am I giving consent to doing? So it feels awkward at first to be like, you can touch me here. You know what I mean? But then I realized how important it is to be able to like be so self-aware of like what boundaries you have with your body. And I think it might feel limiting at first, but it's actually very like you feel freer doing it knowing that you're safe.
Right.
Like the company knows that this is work, and it has nothing to do with like how you see yourself as a woman and like your value as a woman. So I think like the journey of me stepping into the shoes of this role is also a journey of like self-discovery and self-acceptance of like being okay with my body as a woman and being okay with showing that and knowing that it doesn't have any value to who I am as a woman.
Wow. It's so mental and emotional.
It is.
Not just physical.
Yeah, and it's so funny because like playing a sex worker for some reason has given me so much empowerment.
Oh,
Like
cool.
self reflecting and like knowing that my body is okay and it's not something that can be used against me. It's not a weapon that other people can use against me.
Right.
That this is my body is my own and I consent to what I'm able to show and do on that stage.
I think more than that even, honestly, most women would grapple more with body image.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with the outfit that you're wearing, which shows everything, right?
Yeah.
People would be more concerned about not being hubadera, but makikita yung taba and
Yeah,
the cellulite. Did you go through such a dilemma and how did you reconcile it in your head?
It's so funny because like I've always been conscious about my boobs.
Oh, okay.
And like growing up, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be like sexualized or whatever. But yeah, the body image is such a big thing. And it's nice that like all of the bar girls look different.
Yeah, different
So-
sizes.
There's some shows where I watch and I'm like, I don't think these ladies are actually hookers because they look too malinis.
Mm-hmm.
Like they look too all one type of body where it's like dancer, like professional dancer with very slim and like very toned. But what I love about the cast of bar girls that we have is that everyone has a different body type. So some people are bigger, some people are really skinny, some girls don't have boobs, some girls have a big butt, some are dark, some are fairer. And nobody in the cast was ever given like you need to lose weight or you need to be more toned, which happens a lot in other shows where they're like you need to lose weight, huh? I really don't.
Or even if not told, is
the
it common
pressure.
for them to say, "Oh my God, kailangan ko mag-gym kasi everybody will see my pata."
Yeah. Well, that I feel like that's still very much the culture.
Okay.
That everybody gyms. I'm like one of the only ones who don't. Everyone's like, oh, we can't eat hot pot before the show because it's gonna show. But like, I don't know. For me, I just do it.
You don't care.
I don't really care. But yeah, I've never actually felt the pressure to be like maintain a certain body type
Right.
for the role.
Right.
For some reason. I think it's also because knowing that everyone in the cast looks different and I know that they're all beautiful. So even if I, like sometimes I'm bloated, I have my period. Like I know that if another girl had their period and they look bloated, they'd still be beautiful.
Right.
So
How to be you pa.
yeah.
So, as a parallel, right, you've really learned how to step out of your comfort zone and by taking all those risks. What advice would you give to women who are still hesitant to take risks and don't want to leave their comfort zones?
I think one step at a time. Like it's okay to take baby steps and to like do it slowly. But I think once you are able to do something that kind of scares you and know that you didn't die,
Right.
because as someone with anxiety, I also struggle with that. Like oh my God, if I do well, it feels like it's the end of the world. So to be able to like do something that you know you're scared of doing and seeing the result at the end and being like, even if I failed or even if I made a mistake, even if I got rejected, I didn't die. I'm still here.
Right.
I think that's such a beautiful experience.
And since you mentioned that you grapple with anxiety, what is the key to dealing with rejection when you have anxiety? And how can you harness that rejection for your own good?
Yeah, it's pretty hard to deal with. I think it's more of like an impending rejection than the actual rejection.
Oh, right.
That's more scary. Because once you're rejected, it's like, okay, it's done. It's over. But like, for example, right before an audition, like you're waiting in line and you're like, oh my God. I think the best advice I can give is like to ground yourself, to know that like if you've done the work, all there's left to do is to do it, and then whatever happens.
Right.
It's easier said than done, but it takes a lot of practice.
Is there a mantra that you tell yourself when you're in that impending rejection throes?
I think I just remind myself that it's like a blessing to be able to do it.
Right.
So instead of focusing on like, what if I fail? It's more like, I'm so grateful to be able to do this.
Right.
So then it doesn't become about you, but more like the experience and enjoying that experience. Because sometimes we're so wrapped up in the anxiety that we forget that there's joy in that experience.
Right. So looking back on your career thus far, to what traits would you attribute your success? Besides persistence, what else? Well, of course, talent, diba?
That's a good. I think it's Walanghiya.
Oh, great. Love it. Be walanghiya.
Yeah, Yeah, really, the Walanghiya. Because I think that's how I'm able to put myself out there. That, like, even with like, for example, modeling stuff.
Right.
I remember when I was in college, I was like, I want to earn from modeling. So I just sent my resume and my pictures, my set cards
To
to
agents.
agents.
Yeah.
Then I got it.
Oh, okay.
So it's really like, wow, do people know that it's this easy? Like, you
It
just
actually is.
right, like, you just do it.
Right.
Or like me posting videos on TikTok. I just did it na pang walang hiya. And I didn't really care if, like, oh, I'm gonna look stupid. Oh, it's so cringe.
Right.
It's more like,
And
no,
so many young people are so paralyzed by
Yeah.
cringe, di ba?
Yeah, exactly. You really have to embrace the cringe. This is what I realized. Like, most of the people who are successful
Or walang hiya.
walang hiya and are probably like cringy. And
Yeah.
they probably they probably weren't cool to their peers. They're probably like,
It's
"Oh,
the
like
girl that everyone was like, ew.
Yeah, trying
kapal,
hard.
right.
Yeah,
They're the ones who
we have
succeed.
such a fear of looking trying hard or
Right.
whatever, but it's really the only way.
And what are your tips to becoming walang hiya? Because I think so many Filipino women in particular, di ba? They don't want to take up space.
Oh, yeah. Yes,
They
exactly.
shrink themselves figuratively and literally.
Yeah.
And they don't dare chase their dreams because of that fear. What's your advice to become more walang hiya?
I think, I don't know if I have advice, but I'll just say that it's such a freeing experience to not care about what people think of you. And I always say, like, it's a them problem. It's not a you
It's a
problem.
them problem.
Yeah.
Right.
If they're like annoyed or like they're like, oh, you're so cringe, they're living with that annoyance in their brain. You're not. You're just living your best life.
So wise. That's amazing. I think I have a title na for this episode. How to be walang
How
hiya
to
by
be walang
Kiara
hiya.
Dario.
Yeah, everyone says that to me. Like, oh my god, because even now, I think in like Miss Saigon, I suddenly have like this. I don't even know if you can call it celebrity status, but like,
It is. If they're screaming your name in throngs.
yeah. So like when I come out in like stage door and stuff, everyone's surprised that I'm like so gregarious with the fans.
Right. That you're actually minding them. And you're
Yeah,
not like...
or I'm like making jokes with them. And then, but for me, like, parang that's who I am. I don't like to, like, oh, some people are like, oh, maybe you should be like less
humble.
less welcoming.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh
to the fans.
really?
Like, maybe you should
Who says
close
that?
yourself up. When we started our girl group, that was like some advice that we got.
Oh,
That we're like,
act
oh.
more like a star.
Yeah, you should put yourself up more. But for me, like, my outgoingness and my walang hiya is what got me to where I am today.
Right.
So parang why will I change that just because I've made it?
Wow.
Yeah, so I really enjoy like just being myself. Cause then I mean it's so tiring to put up to put up a
To
front.
be inauthentic.
Yeah, no, I can't.
Right. So what are your future aspirations? Earlier we were talking about
Yeah.
London.
Yeah, I really want to see where my international theater career can take me. I'm exploring different cities like Melbourne or London. And I also want to be able to like go back and forth. So like doing projects here in Manila for sure. Because the theater scene in Manila is so booming right now.
Super.
It's
amazing.
insane. And it's amazing to see, and I'm so proud to be living in this generation of Philippine theater.
Right. So if there's one, I want to talk to you for hours, but unfortunately, we're getting the time signal. So if there's one takeaway that all your throngs of adoring fans and our listeners could take away from our conversation today, that they can apply to their own lives, even if they're not, dreaming of being on stage, but have other dreams that they have put on hold because of Hiya.
Oh my god.
What would it be?
Your your hiya is never gonna take you anywhere. You just have to put yourself out there, because it's gonna be such a rewarding experience. And even if you get like rejected, you're always going to enjoy the journey more if you take those chances.
Right. And what do you want to say to your parents since I know them?
Hi, Mom. Hi, Papa.
The parents who were disappointed when you wanted to go to med school. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
But you're so good at theater. Diba? Kakaiba sila.
Such an opposite reaction. Where
Right.
don't become a doctor.
Yeah.
Why are you gonna become a doctor? I know you want to become an actor.
I love when parang you said school, it's gonna get in the way of school, and your mom said, mag-LOA ka na lang.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, I was like, what if I don't do Ang Huling El Bimbo anymore this year? Because it's gonna interfere with my school. She was like, mag-LOA ka na lang. My parents are always like, you can always go back to school.
Right, and they're right.
Yeah, they're right. Where like, especially with theater, I feel like it's different with other industries.
Right.
With theater or like modeling, it's like you never know when this opportunity is gonna come again.
Right.
So you better take it, especially if you love it.
And how can other parents be like your parents?
I don't know.
If you could advise like the parents of a friend of yours who is in a similar situation, but they're kind of like not encouraging their child.
I understand to an extent, because every parent wants their kid to be stable. Theater is not stable. But I come to realize also that as someone who has also been in the corporate world, I used to do I used to be in advertising.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, for a year during the pandemic. I think it's the same experience with a lot of other people. I earn more when I'm happy. When I'm not doing what I love, I'm drained. I don't get good opportunities. Parang the universe knows.
Right.
When you're thriving and when you're not.
Right.
So, like, I think that if you love what you do, you'll find a way to make it work.
Right.
So that's the advice I have for parents also. It's like, also happiness is the most important. Because if you're stable and like rich, but like you're not in a position that you are truly proud of where you are, then what's the point?
Right. Such wise words. Thank you so much. Where can people follow you and, monitor your career until you reach the international stage?
I'm on Instagram, TikTok as Kiara Miren. And you can also check out my girl group. We're called Daydream. You can check us out on all social media at We Are Daydream PH. We're also on Spotify and YouTube. You can check out our latest song, Make Me Better.
Thank you, and break a leg in Taiwan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So fun. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you for listening to You Can Do This. If you want to know more about me, visit Mirza.com. That's MYRZA.com. And follow me at Mirza Season on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and LinkedIn. If you like this episode, please don't forget to rate it 5 stars. Hit the follow button on your podcast streaming platforms and hit the notification bell to get alerted every time we release a new episode. Catch you at our next convo, and always remember, you can do this.
The opinions of podcast creators, hosts, and guests are not necessarily reflective of the official stance of the Pod Network Entertainment, its hosts, or other network programs. The content created by the people behind the podcast is personal and not meant to harm any religion, ethnicity, group, organization, company, or individual.